Okay, good evening, everyone. Call the Prescott Planning Commission meeting to order. It is Monday, February 3rd at 6 o'clock. Do a roll call. Josh?
Here.
Bailey?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
And Steve and
Okay.
Kate are excused, and I haven't heard from John. So the next item on the agenda is to approve the Planning Commission minutes from December 2nd of 2024.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve the minutes from December. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Next item is the City of Prescott Comprehensive Plan Update. Carter?
Yeah, so the first kind of subtopic is the public participation plan, which was adopted back in 2022 for, if you remember, the bypass route. So the Plan Commission can review the public participation plan and decide if there are other efforts that should be made. There are a number of instances where the word may is used, and we do not have to do those items. The ones where it says the city will, we are required to do. You can see Exhibit A is the former public participation plan. The website, city office is one, social media, we are all planning on doing. The community survey we have prepared, so we will have that for review shortly. Notice to interested parties is required. Public hearing we will do. Planning Commission and Council kind of updates to them are pretty routine, and the distribution of the plan amendment is pretty routine as well. So with that, I will turn it over. And additionally, one other thing, the comprehensive plan schedule is there. There's 5 meetings that are outlined to discuss the various topics through there. In which Josh Miller from Cedar Corporation will be present at each one of those meetings to discuss it. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to the Plan Commission for any discussion or comments.
I don't really have any questions on the outline that you have. I think the outline's like the high categorical things that we probably need to touch on. So I'm not seeing anything like that we want to add, I guess, from my perspective. I don't know if anybody else thinks we need to add anything. I think you covered it really well.
I think at the last meeting it was briefly discussed about some sort of citizen committee or panel that would get put together. I don't know if that wants to get discussed further.
Yeah, I think I hit on that, Carter, and you know, maybe I'm just thinking old-fashioned stuff. That's with the website. I don't know what kind of participation we get. You know, I know that that's a concern. With everything that's here and the way you have to do it, you know, you've got the website, there's always social media. It looks to me like you're going to touch base. People are going to be able to get their comments on one way or another that way. I don't really see the need as much as we used to, you know.
People are more tuned in now.
Yeah, I'd say that's true. And I don't know what we get, you know,
Yeah.
especially at the planning commission meetings, if we'd have anything, but I don't know what your thoughts are. The schedule, on the schedule that you got, so that'll be when they're going to, when Cedar will be meeting with the planning commission in
Yep.
these months.
So
Okay.
starting in April,
Okay.
the May, June, skipping July, August,
Skipping September.
Yep. I guess I'm kind of getting ahead of this, but the survey won't be completed before that first meeting in April, just based on what do we call it, our newsletter getting distributed at the end of March. So that issues and opportunities, we don't really touch on that in the survey, but the natural culture and agricultural resources, we wouldn't have the survey data back for that topic
For April.
in April.
All right.
Instead of doing the survey through like our regular like billing stuff, can we do like, I'm gonna forget the name of the company we use all the time. We have Microsoft Forms, don't you? We have 365, don't we?
We do, but Carter has ARC.
ArcGIS, so this is Survey 123. So we'll send this out in a link on our website, social media and everything. We just
Okay.
wanted to include it in the newsletter as just just another avenue for people to pick up on it.
Got it, okay. Okay.
So I think before we get into the survey, what we're just looking, if there is another feedback, is just a recommendation to bring the communications plan to council for approval, unless you have any changes you would like to recommend to council for consideration.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So is that the resolution 2508? So
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve resolution 2508 as is.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second to approve resolution 2508. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? The motion carried. And the comprehensive plan survey review.
Yeah, so we put together this survey. It's about 50 questions covering the topics that we are required to cover, so all these core elements. We did have a few questions that we wanted to discuss. First is offering an incentive for participants. So we currently have this as a drawing for one of 4 $50 gift cards to a local business. We are actually talking with the Chamber of Commerce for doing chamber bucks for that, so then we're not kind of picking and choosing, be anyone who's involved in the chamber. So if the Plan Commission thinks that is appropriate, we can do that.
If you have 50 questions, yes.
Yeah, I
Because
mean, that's a good
getting people to
idea.
commit to 50 questions is gonna be tough. Like, the minute I get past 20, I'm like, and I'm done. I'm gonna back out. I'm gonna be quite honest about that. I think 50, if there's a way, like, where if we could deem, like, what questions we think are gonna be, if they're all critical, that's awesome. But 50 questions is a lot for somebody to sit down. Have you tried doing it yet?
Yeah, it does take about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So,
So and again, I don't know like all the different categorical stuff, but that would be my only feedback is if are all of them required or can they skip past them?
the only required one would be the address,
Okay.
providing their address, because
Okay.
we wanted to be able to kind of toggle responses based on, do they live in the city? Are they, you'll see in the survey if you've looked at it, there are certain questions about like road repair conditions and stuff. So we want to see, are these, negative answers coming from this area in the city and all that. So
Yeah.
that's the only required question in the whole survey.
Is it limited to Prescott residents?
It would not be limited, but just providing that address does give us the ability
You
to
can
see
filter
both
it by
sides. Yeah.
Prescott residents?
Yeah, we did broad before just because like we had tourism that comes in. So when we did the first river assessment, I guess, right when I first got on, we included basically anybody that wanted to attend. And they actually gave pretty good feedback, but I think if you have 50 questions, I think you're gonna want that. Like
That's
an
a lot of
incentive.
questions.
Yeah, if there's like I'm aligned to the incentive for 50 questions if that's what we really need.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, it's not that bad, cause you have it basically where it's like this, so this isn't too terrible, but
Yeah, the mechanisms are pretty quick and easy.
that's, at least it
looking
looks
for-
user friendly.
This here, so the next question we wanted to get some feedback on was this question regarding the Steamboat Inn site.
Yeah,
If we do want to include a question gathering people's opinion on development at that site, we have spoke to the owners of the property there and they are fine with this question. They were actually interested in what feedback we would get. I know it's kind of been thought that it would be like a multi-use development there ever since the steamboat went away, but it would just be interesting to see if that's still what, I mean, it is 10 years later, I guess, since that building has been demolished, so it'd be kind of interesting to see if that's still the vision for people in that.
recreational,
property.
no, okay. I was like, everybody always asks, can we make it a park? I'm like, not for $3 million.
Yeah, you want to do it for money.
$3 million's a little high.
So yeah, if we think that question is fine to be included, we can certainly include that.
You know, at least provide guidance, like if somebody does come with an opportunity, what the community really wants to see there. But, I mean, if we don't have anything in our zoning stuff that would prevent something from coming in that doesn't align with the survey, that would be the only thing. I don't know what that is zoned at. but that'd be the only thing, like, can we actually say no to some of these things if it comes in, I guess?
Well, eventually you can't really say no because you say no and then it sits there for 20 years.
There you go.
I mean, that's just the honest
You
truth.
can ask the question, I don't think it hurts to ask the question, I just don't know, like, how much control we'd have over it,
Right, exactly.
so. But maybe that would help them to advertise a little bit more for it and see who we can get to maybe bite on it if that's what the community wants, so maybe that would help them.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, so then. So we're also kind of merging this as like a pseudo community survey, because it's our one opportunity to put this out there. I mean, we could do a separate survey, but it'd be a lot of surveys for people to take. So this one is regarding the condition of trees. We know a lot of dead ash trees, so we're kind of wanting to get feedback on people, whether they're satisfied, not satisfied. That would kind of indicate whether the city should take initiative and kind of help the
Those
quality
trees
of
have really
trees.
changed in like the last 2 years. Because I noticed that last time I drove around this part of town, I was like, holy smoke, there's like every tree.
Yeah, so that's what this question is kind of geared towards, is gauging the community's thoughts on our I guess you say the tree inventory of the city, so. Any comments or questions on that?
I think it's a pretty important question. I know I brought it up, I think the last meeting, whether or not there was a plan in place for the tree replacement. There's a lot of people that it's pretty important to. I know there's a lot of citizens that, my wife being one of them, but I'm the same way. It's an investment in the future, 20 years from now, it'll come to fruition with those trees coming, It just makes the community look a lot better. I think it's an important question.
Just to replace mine. Mine are like way close to the curb, so it just was a tough spot for them to be in, but
Yeah.
they were gonna have a hard time with growth because of salt.
Okay, and this, going back to being a kind of like a pseudo community survey, this question about whether the city should prioritize the siting and construction of a new government facility, housing, public safety, and city administration in one building within the next 10 years. So this is really kind of gauging the public's interest on, I guess, the city's current plan about a building expansion. So whether that would be a beneficial question, I'm not sure, but it would be gauging what the public thinks.
I think it's a good question to ask.
Yeah, because there's probably a lot of people that don't realize that we are looking, to build a new building somewhere. So it'd probably help on awareness. And, I mean, if they looked at the conditions of the buildings and stuff, they would, agree that we need to do that.
And then you can gauge the response that you're gonna get.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the 4 questions I guess we wanted to run by you guys as kind of the flyer questions. The rest of these are pretty routine. Do we offer enough passive recreation facilities, active recreation facilities? Those are all pretty routine amongst all the other comprehensive plan surveys that have ever been issued. So those were the main questions we wanted to ask. So if that all looks good, I think the action on this was to recommend approval to council at the February 10th meeting.
Can you go back to the beginning, like the
The very beginning?
like the front page of this? Can you scroll down a little bit? Good. Oh, you do have less than 15 minutes.
I would put the incentive in the paragraph before they just
Maybe you
say
should
no right
lead
away.
with,
here's an
You can
incentive
win
to
money.
do the survey. Yeah, I would actually put that as like one of the starters. and
We
go
will
like-
be leading out that in our
Facebook post?
newsletter, Facebook posts on our website,
or what is it, Chamber Bucks?
Chamber Bucks, yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
And then just another thing to note, so we wouldn't, as Carter mentioned, when the survey closes, we wouldn't bring you all the data all at once and kind of dump it on you. We would, each of these meetings per our schedule, we would bring the survey results for those specific questions and bring them forward to you, so you have them for that topic. And then the next meeting, we would have the survey results for those topics, so that the results would come in segments as we're discussing discussing each chapter.
It'd be nice if like there's more tourism-based questions where we can include people that are not from here, but then if there's direct things that are impactful to property tax or anything like that, that's really pared down to the people that have a residence or a business or address here. That's the one thing that'd be kind of nice to, once we get to those questions, like the building and stuff, like that, I really like hear about, no offense, residents' feedback on that.
I think Bailey's right with the length, where they're concerned about the length of this thing. People will get to question 20, like you said, and be like, I don't have time for this.
Giveaway. I would say if we see that we're not getting as much of a response, we can see like what questions maybe we can pare down. If you're seeing like a neutral response from everybody on like initial submissions, and so like, are we actually getting a sample size here that we want based on this question? And if not, pull it and then we can pare down from there, but see where you start with and we can see what we get for significance in terms of responses maybe.
Okay.
People have short attention spans these days.
Yeah. If we can get the answers, I think it's awesome.
No, I agree. The questions look great. But.
Yeah, so that would be my only ask, is when we get it, if we could like separate, like if it's tax implication stuff, I really don't care about residents. If it's tourism stuff, we can include the people not from here, but does that make sense, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
If there's, with the address. I guess I would make the recommendation to bring it to council.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to bring the comprehensive plan survey review to council. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thanks. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the proposed amendments to ordinance 635-57, off-street parking in residential areas. Carter?
Yeah, so the last draft ordinance we were going to prepare, we were looking to better define recreational vehicles, and then recreational vehicles greater than 8,000 pounds were required to be on an improved surface. So our current draft ordinance, we did do a more precise definition of an RV. We did not do a weight restriction due to difficulty by field observations. We included a 5-foot setback and surfacing requirements where gravel can be used. Non-motorized recreational vehicles would be exempt from the surfacing requirements. Typical registration and licensing, limiting a quantity of 3, which is similar to our accessory structure limit. Additionally, campers, motorhomes, fifth wheels, travel trailers, limited to 1, which is similar to Ellsworth and Hastings when we were researching. Maintaining in that draft ordinance is the RV habitation restrictions that we previously discussed. So action item on this is final review and suggestions. I guess it doesn't have to be final, but and also if approved, set a public hearing for the March 3rd Plan Commission meeting. So I'll turn it over to the Plan Commission. Any questions or comments regarding this?
Do we know of any situations where people are not 5 feet from their lot lines right now to date?
Today?
Yeah.
It has happened. I believe up on Pine Ridge, the individual was actually parked off of their own property, but it was a vacant lot next to them.
Okay.
But yeah, people do tend to want to park these right up in a corner of their property of some sort. It does happen quite frequently. Whether or not we get called about that is another thing. I do observe it a lot, though.
I think at the last meeting, there was kind of a consensus among this group that there shouldn't be any limitations on the number of vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
We want to revisit.
In the driveway.
Do we want to revisit that at all? I mean, as far as, I know we're, you know, the basis of the argument, because people have kids that drive, and you have a lot of cars, but I'm just wondering if we shouldn't have a number on that. You know, there's some concerns with some citizens that maybe there's 5, 6, 7 rigs outside a person's place, and it sure is an eyesore, you know.
Then why don't we make an ordinance saying you can't park in your driveway?
What's that?
Why don't we just have an ordinance saying you can't park in your driveway?
Well, some people have big driveways, and they can handle maybe 6, 8 cars, but is that what we want, you know? I know what, I heard what was said at the last meeting, and I thought, well, that makes sense, because there's a lot of people with kids, high school kids and college kids that come home that drive, but it just seems like there's some instances that I can think of in town where it's an eyesore. Just bringing it up for discussion.
We have some to date that have that 6 deep.
Well, the ones, the houses like right out here, you know, where they put them all the way back, they got those, those have really long driveways.
I've seen them.
I know there are requirements as far as registration goes, you know, they have to have current registration
Yep.
and that stuff, but, I don't know, just a thought.
No, I agree. There's definitely some instances of way too many vehicles in driveways and yards and on the street. I don't know what the best way is to.
The problem when you say you can't park in your driveway, a lot of times people say, fine, I'll park in the street. Or there's somebody in their driveway in the street. So, I mean, they're both good arguments, either way. I get it.
How did I forget how it said as far as our comparisons to other communities. Do you remember? We don't have that as one of the
Comparison in terms of parking in the driveway.
or number of cars, number of vehicles.
I didn't look at that specifically. I was more focused on the rear and side yard parking. But revisiting that, there are a lot of communities that do limit. I mean, we used to, but it's typically like a limit of 4. Obviously, cars in the garage do not count, so you can have 4 in the driveway. I think ours was either 4 or 5. I can't remember how it was stated, but we changed that at the last meeting. So it is pretty common. If I had to guess, I would assume River Falls maybe has that, potentially Hastings as well. But yeah, I didn't look at that specifically when looking at the other communities.
I'm sorry, did I miss it? How many are we, is Prescott allowing in the driveway?
We formally, I should probably
Or is there
look it
not
up
a number?
just to be
I
sure.
thought it was 3.
I thought it was 3 too.
I think you're right.
So that's
Yeah.
so it's 3 in the
That's not that
driveway.
many cars.
So you can have hypothetically have 3 in the driveway plus 3 in your yard
I don't know if we have a limit right now.
Yeah, we currently don't have a limit.
for the
Now
yard.
in the yard.
Yep.
I thought that's what I mean in your.
That's what we would be proposing.
That's what you'd be adding.
Yeah.
Would be
Yeah, so-
limiting it to 3 in the yard.
The former ordinance had a restriction of 3. I believe Steve wanted to change that to as many as that could fit in a driveway. So the proposed ordinance says as many vehicles that can fit in the driveway, and then a limit of 3 in the yard.
You know, I recall that conversation as well, and you know, I understand the argument, but I think I am leaning the other way.
My driveway's in the rear.
What's that?
My driveway's in the rear, so I got 2. Sometimes if the guys come out and go camping, I got 3 cars in the driveway and a couple motorcycles.
Well, I'm okay with 3 cars in the driveway, but if it's just unlimited, you know, 6 cars in a driveway, I mean, I guess if you have that big driveway, I mean, I don't know.
So what do you do when winter restrictions come in? So you got 5 kids, and you got 6 cars, and you can't park them in the street. You gotta park them in your driveway. Cause you can't be on the street when it snows. So if you're gonna limit how many that you put in the driveway, where are they gonna park?
There are instances,
On the
Rob,
street.
where you can think that it's a legitimate concern, you know, but then there's the other side of that,
Oh,
where people
well,
are just, they
I
got
get
a
it.
lot of junk
What,
cars.
what about people who don't have a driveway?
Yeah.
Who park in the street all the time? What are they doing in the winter?
They have to move their car,
Well,
or they get fined.
yeah. And there is no ordinance on parking in the street, right? I mean,
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
certain durations, and you can't have like a, flatbed trailer that's 30 feet long parked in the street, or anything really longer than 22 feet is our
okay,
ordinance.
under 22 feet,
Yeah.
you can, there is a time limit.
48 hours.
48, yep.
I mean, and so if you move it,
4 feet.
if you move it 4 feet, are you good?
Yep.
You are, okay. But the new ordinance, or the proposed ordinance would say maximum 3 vehicles in the side and rear
Correct.
yard.
And that's all, no restrictions on driveway.
And one
Motorhome.
motorhome,
Yep.
Which would count against the 3.
yeah.
So basically all we're saying is you can't have 3 motorhomes scattered around your side and rear yard too.
Where does an ice house fall? Because it kind of looks like a camper. Do we have that included, or are we gonna include?
question.
I mean, we have a lot of people with ice houses, I'm just wondering, like, does
Yeah,
that fall
an
under
ice
this
house
then?
would count as an RV, but a non-motorized RV, so you wouldn't have to have a surfacing requirement for that.
So same thing with like work trailers, so guys that are construction workers that got their trailers at the house, they gotta take to job sites and stuff, that
Yep.
counts underneath this too.
Pull it to the side of the house, that would,
So they could have a motorhome and their work trailer.
A motorhome or work trailer and then a boat.
Yeah, so they would have up to 3 vehicles may be parked in the side yard limit, 1 camper / motorhome. And that's driving camper, we're saying, it's like has to be.
So you
drivable
couldn't
until-
have a trailer and a motorhome, you're saying? Like
like
Yeah,
a camper
could.
trailer?
right,
Or no,
like an ice,
yeah,
like
because it is,
an ice shack or whatever.
yeah, I mean, if you wanna call that a camper trailer, 'cause what do we have? Motorhomes, class A, B, and C, converted buses and camper trailers such as pop-up, travel trailers, and fifth-wheel trailers are limited to 1.
Okay.
So,
That would
I
include
would say
the-
an ice house, ice castle, however you wanna say it,
Yeah.
would be similar to probably a travel trailer in that sense.
Yep.
So will we add that terminology then to it too for the definition, or we just keep it at camper?
I
Because,
think that's a camper.
yeah, okay.
Just because you can lower it, it's still a camper. It's
Yeah,
got hoods
okay.
in it, you know.
I'm just wondering, because someone's gonna ask eventually. So we would limit to, so vehicles may be parked in the rear side yard at least 5 feet from the lot lines, an improved surface. Up to 3 vehicles may park in the rear or the side yard, so now we're talking cars, right, driving cars?
Yep, those count to the 3 vehicles, yeah.
And then for people that have a driveway in the back, it's not counting as driveway, it's counting as the yard, so if I wanna park my grass in the rear?
Driveway doesn't necessarily have to be a front yard thing. The driveway is really an exception. So if you have an established driveway in your rear yard, that would be, as many as could fit.
Okay,
But the driveway is really used as an exception to park in the front yard.
yeah, so when we say rear or side yard, I'm talking about the grass, not like a
Yeah.
gravel driveway, okay. I just wanna make sure I understood that. And then we have unlimited basically right now as it stands for the driveway.
As proposed, yeah.
I have a question on front yards. I thought they changed that width from 30 feet to 30 feet at the street a few years back.
I remember Dave bringing that up.
It is 30 feet at the street, yeah.
Oh, but then it can get bigger, right?
Yep, I
Okay.
think up to 40.
Yeah, that rings a bell. But so they should probably state that in here, 30 feet in width at the street. We're under front yards.
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
add that.
A, section A,
Yep.
yeah.
It used to be 24 feet.
I know.
We changed that,
Well, that's because everybody had a 30-foot driveway anyway.
right.
Guess I don't have any other questions on it. You?
No, I don't.
No?
You guys good with that?
Yeah, if everybody's good with the unlimited, I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of.
I feel like that's almost a separate topic though, because right now we're looking at just the RV, so if we wanna bring up the car one, I think we bring up that, whatever other zoning sections are underneath that, we can take like a hard look at it to say like, what do we have? Cause it's, you have off-street parking that goes into that we'd have to look at, and then driveway parking to just see like what,
That wouldn't be in this.
how they overlap.
ordinance?
So this deals with all basically parking on private property.
This one does?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I thought we were just looking at campers for some reason.
So the on-street parking is a completely
That's my
separate
bad.
section outside of zoning.
Yeah, I know there was some strong feelings about the limiting the number of vehicles in a driveway, but it was not encroaching, was it like not encroaching on the right of way, like sidewalks and
Correct.
where they have to be off the sidewalk?
Yeah.
So that could come under more scrutiny. It does vary kind of widely, people's amount of
Yeah,
yard and private yard in front of their house. I mean, in some instances it's 10 feet,
right.
some instances it's 30, you know? So it would potentially come under scrutiny by some people who don't have that full, 25-foot setback.
But it's also complaint driven.
Was that?
It's also complaint driven,
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
not like the cops are going around with tape measure.
No, but then you gotta ask the question like, if we're not gonna enforce it, what are we doing?
Yeah,
If we're not gonna actually do real
it
enforcement,
will cause some
Problem.
controversy.
But I think that issue more so comes up to Josh's point, if somebody complains to us and then we say we're not enforcing it, that's generally, most people understand that we're a smaller community and that's our go-to is, if somebody says, so, well, it's in your books, why aren't you enforcing it? Well, we're on a complaint base, that's how we do code enforcement. We had a proactive base and it went, from my understanding, pretty poorly. We got a lot of upset people, so we switched to complaint base, so as on a complaint basis, we,
But with complaint base, you are enforcing it. You're just asking the citizens to tell you, hey, who's doing something wrong.
I agree with that approach.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody else is comfortable with the unlimited vehicles in the driveway, I guess I'm not gonna,
We can always bring it up again later if something,
There's a lot of complaints.
yeah.
I'm willing to that.
I'd say we have a handful of people who are actively ignoring or ignore us and we have issues with. And
How many?
I mean, I'd say probably 3 properties cause us the most issues with people complaining and bringing issues.
For the same issue or just like a round of issues? Like, I'm just wondering, like, are we talking just off-street parking or is it off?
2 of them are the same exact issues and,
One is more involved, maybe?
well, both of them are more involved, but I'd say for Carter, we've been dealing with for 2 years, but it's just, it's hard because I think the point is, we have over 1,000 homeowners and 99% of them are all complying and we have 0.1% or something that are, not wanting to comply and ignore it, so. But that's the problem with dealing
Yeah,
with
it
that.
ties your hands, you got no recourse, right? Yeah.
I'm fine with the language just for the yard parking. With the vehicles, with the camper stuff. And then if there's more complaints that come up, we can review it if we need to add it. Is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion to send that to council then?
Set a public hearing.
So
Set a public hearing.
Motion to set a public hearing for next plan commission.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to send this to a public hearing. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Okay. Other business.
Yeah, I just had a question, Carter. Any word on the non-compliance at 660 Dexter?
660 Dexter, non-compliance of what?
The building that they didn't finish putting the wood on?
Correct. So those two, we were working with the property owner kind of over the holidays. I don't think we've heard back from them yet, but we were gonna discuss setting up a meeting, cause they were going to put up those accent panels, that's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and they did not do that on the rear two corners, so I guess the north side of the fifth building, which per their construction documents, it does detail those to be there. So we were gonna discuss what their options are moving forward. I think we'd really probably push for them to put those accent panels on.
They had enough lumber there,
Yeah,
and they took it away.
This one?
Yeah, so, right, this corner and this corner don't have the access panels. On the drawings that were approved by the city, they show them.
yeah, we have the construction documents that details an accent panel on each corner, and they did not actually, get constructed that way, so.
Do we give them our occupancy stuff already?
Yeah.
Did- did-
They had
Yes.
occupancy, they just were literally, they had occupancy before any of the buildings had the corners done. And
Yeah.
then they came and did the corners,
They
and
redid the
then
corners,
stopped,
yeah.
whatever, yeah, they redid the corners, and then those two corners they didn't do.
Do we hold anything in escrow for any final grading or anything like that?
We did not. We do have an option of, this is actually an issue we've had now with 3 properties, and it's actually probably something we should bring to the planning commission for further discussion, but we do have within our ordinance that we can revoke a certificate of occupancy if it does not, they don't comply with the site plans that were approved. So that's an option for us.
For
but-
new development contracts and stuff, could we withhold, like, I don't know what the rules are, like holding escrow on certain,
So the thing that we've started doing recently, because we've had this issue now 3 times with the storage units.
Yeah.
We required a letter of credit that the bank issues to us that we can draw upon if they do not complete and then we say to them, as long as you get that letter of credit and we can draw upon that amount, you can get your certificate of occupancy and we'll use those funds if you don't complete the improvements by
a certain
a
date?
year. Yeah.
Okay, cool, so we at least have some avenue for future ones.
But this is an issue also with Bodie Studios. The parking lot was not completed to what they complied with, plus the landscaping that they submitted for their site plan. So it's one of those issues we're trying to figure out if we want to go down that road or if we can work with the property owner to just see, hey, you didn't do this, is it going to happen? The problem that we have run into is generally they say yeah, and then there's no actual.
What about our inspector, like, what's he signing off on? I don't know our process that well, and I probably should, but like, when I was working at Rosemount, it was like jumping through a million fire hoops to
Yeah.
try and get the final sign off and our escrow back.
And we have started doing that more
Yeah.
proactively with our building inspector of saying, hey, we're noticing this, and this aren't done, don't issue a certificate of occupancy until those are completed. So that is
That's
something we've
nice.
worked with them on.
Okay. So he is gonna start doing that? Cause I'm like, I remember my building inspector coming out and looking at the plans and doing like a final thing for the city to make sure that we basically met all of the agreements with
Yeah.
the plans, so,
Well, and some of them that we've been trying to be lenient, to be
Yeah.
pro-business and say, we understand it's not done, we'll give you a certificate of occupancy, and we've kind of been taken advantage of in that regard, so.
well, I guess we can change our approach on that. That's not good.
Well, I mean, sometimes it makes sense to give them the CO early, or before they have 100%
We were able to get
completion.
CO, but we basically couldn't get, like, they would withhold funds basically from us with an escrow approach. Like, if we got done in the, like, late fall and we weren't gonna get done with like sod and all this stuff, we would get CO for occupancy, but then they would basically come back and
Yeah,
final grading too of entire to close out a development site. That was,
And across the river, you can do a temporary certificate of occupancy where,
yeah, we,
talk to our building inspector, that's not allowed over.
okay. All right, well, at least you have a credit option.
Any other
Doing
business?
it. No. Motion to adjourn.
second.
Motion second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion, we are adjourned.
Sweet. Yeah, so I went there and I